Mr. Chairman, we're now recording the meeting and streaming live to YouTube. You may start when you're ready.
All right, good morning. Welcome to this Metro Plan Orlando MAC meeting. My name is John Dallas and I'll be chairing the meeting today. We also have a team of folks working to ensure this meeting runs smoothly for us in the room and those listening online. As we continue to meet in person, all committee members are required to be physically present here in Metro Plan Orlando boardroom for purposes of achieving a quorum. Staff will continue to stream our meetings online for public access. I'd like to remind everybody, please, to silence your phones. And we will now have a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. So if everybody will stand. Bow your head. Amen. All right, let's turn to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll go to, let's see, make sure I've got this in the right order. Chairman's announcements. This morning, I asked that we silence your phones, smart devices. I do ask that all committee members wait to be recognized to speak and to activate your microphones before speaking and turning them back off when you're complete. As a reminder, the microphone is turned on and off by pressing the blue button, the one with the little talking face icon on it located on the screen in front of you. There are 2 public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public participating virtually who want to speak will use the raise hands feature on the Zoom screen. If attending by phone, you can hit *9 to request to be recognized. We also accepted comments by email and phone messages before the meeting. The guidelines for the public comment are posted at metroplanorlando.org/virtual meetings. We want this and all future meetings to be accessible to all. Participants may join by computer, tablet, or phone. If you need accommodations to participate in the future, please contact Metro Plan Orlando. And we now go to agenda review. Ms. Larson.
Good morning, committee members and chairman. First off, since the last time we met, there's been some big transportation news you've probably heard of, which is the Brightline began service on September 22nd. And they are currently running 30 trains a day between Orlando and Miami. And that's about 15 daily round trips. So that's been a lot of success there. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing a new staff member, Maria Padovani. There she is. Maria Padovani has joined our finance team as our fiscal manager. Maria is from the Dominican Republic and moved to Winter Garden in 2018. She brings over 15 years of governmental accounting experience from the Department of Homeland Security, the City of Altamont Springs, and the City of Orlando. And she's already hit the ground running and she's paid us. So I'm very grateful to Maria. Next up, earlier this year, we had our federal certification. This happens every 4 years where members of the FHWA and the FTA come to certify that we are operating as we should be as an MPO. And we received a copy of that report. It's in your agenda packets under general information. And I have great news. I'll summarize it. We did great. And we have no corrective actions, which is almost unheard of. So they're very happy with the work that we do here at Metro Plan Orlando. They reported that we are doing the work that we should be and that we have a lot of best practices that they noted. So that's very encouraging. Next is the board approved the 2023 apportionment plan at their September 13th meeting. As a part of the updated apportionment plan, the board reaffirmed the 3-county Metro Plan Orlando Metro Plan planning area, which is Orange, Osceola, and Seminole County. So Metro Plan will still be operating over those 3 counties. And then they also updated the governing board membership to reflect the population changes from the census. The new makeup includes an additional voting seat for Orange County, a voting seat for the city of St. Cloud, and 1 new non-voting advisory seat to the Orlando Executive Airport. The board's approved apportionment plan has been transmitted to FDOT for the governor's review and signature. And then I want to take note, Mobility Week, yes, thank you. FDOT's Mobility Week is in full swing. It started last week, on October 27th, and it is through to this Saturday, November 4th. There's going to be lots of events, and you may have noticed some in your jurisdiction that have been happening related to mobility and alternative modes of transportation, not just vehicles. How can we take the bus or take Sunrail or walk or bike and get around our region? So that's been an effort that we've been a part of, and we've partnered with FDOT on that. If you'd like some more information, you can visit the website fdot.gov/projects/mobility week to see the remaining events this week. And then, thank you. Last up is we want to make note of this important event that we're having and we're going to be promoting, which is on November 15th, a Vision Zero event, uniting on a quest for zero traffic deaths. You also received a flyer at your seat today. And this is a virtual event that honors the World Remembrance Day for Road Traffic Victims. It's a high-profile global observance to remember the millions who have been killed and seriously injured on the world's roads, and to acknowledge the suffering of all affected. We also will have Metro Plan Orlando staff share what the Vision Zero Central Florida is and what we are doing in the region to help eliminate traffic deaths on our Central Florida roads. Registration is now open, so you can register online. You can scan that QR code and register that way. We would love to have you attend virtually. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Mike Wilson for the safety moment.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Our safety moment this month is on pedestrian safety. This is NHTSA's Pedestrian Safety Month. And as we have in the past, kind of go over a little basic data and kind of then get into sort of what can we take action on. As you can see here, we're going to have about 78 on average fatal crashes per year in our area. And that's crashes. So there's actually, sometimes there's more than one pedestrian killed. So the number is a little bit higher than that. And you can see that's more than a quarter of our total traffic crashes on an average year. Serious injury crashes also, again, 161, probably a little more than that with multiple injuries. Really notable is that 82% of our fatals are happening at night, and over half of the serious injuries happening at night. When we look into that in more detail, we find that about 2/3 of those are not happening at an intersection. And irrespective of lighting, more than half are happening on roads with posted speeds of 40 to 45 miles per hour. So that combination of speed and darkness is a real challenge for us when it comes to keeping pedestrians safe. There's some ongoing research being done by Dr. Ron Van Houten. Dr. Van Houten actually helped Central Florida get the Best Foot Forward program going. He developed the methodology that we use in that program. And I serve on a committee, national committee with him. He's currently doing research through the University of Western Michigan on nighttime fatal and serious injuries for pedestrians and cyclists. And what they found, they actually went out into the field and used light meters at the actual crash locations. And so what they found is even on roads that had street lighting, most of these crashes were happening in some dark spot where the lights weren't really covering it adequately. And then, of course, I mean, there are also roads that simply need the lighting overall. But so this speaks to kind of a twofold approach for us. One is on the planning and engineering side of doing a better job of lighting our roads. But then also, what can we do as individuals? If we're out there trying to cross the road, and often it's really too far to walk to the nearest well-lit crosswalk with a traffic signal. We find that on average on some of our arterials, it's 1/10 of a mile to the nearest signal from where the person was hit. But if you, as a pedestrian, if you can just go to the nearest street light so that, so that you're lit up, so the approaching drivers can see you. And then, another thing is that we often admonish pedestrians to wear reflective clothing or carry a light. That used to be kind of, I think, kind of an awkward recommendation, but today everybody's carrying a light. You just pull this thing out and it's a pretty bright light, and you can wave this at drivers for a little bit of extra conspicuity. So that concludes my safety moment for this month. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think we have roll call now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anderson.
Here.
Blackwell.
Here.
Davitt. Dowless.
Here.
Firstner.
Here.
Foraker.
Here.
Gardner. Guthrie.
Here.
Henson. McCann.
Here.
Ramos. Sackett. Sladek. Smith. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I got a text from Commissioner Smith who said he's on his way. He'd be a little bit late, so he'll sign in. All right, we're on public comments on action items. We'll now hear public comments. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold public comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. Do we have any joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
We have no virtual comments, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to make a public comment?
We have not received any in the room today.
Please note Jordan Smith. Good to have you, sir. Are there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
No, there were.
Thank you very much. All right, now we're going to partner updates and agency reports. And I think we have first is Mr. Scarf with FDOT. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee members. I have a few items for you this morning. As you'll see in your agendas, it's an FDOT heavy morning, so you'll have some presentations to follow. First announcement I'd like to make is an upcoming event. So there will be a public meetings regarding the proposed intersection improvements at Thomas Junior Parkway, also known as County Road 46A and Reinhardt Road. Additionally, I-4 at US 1792 will be addressed to address the safety improvements during this meeting. Those can be found under FM numbers 242-592-6 and 242-592-8 if you visit CFL Roads. There's already a video up on there, but I want to let you know that the virtual meeting is going to be taking place Wednesday, December 13th at 5 p.m. And then you'll be able to submit comments at that point in time. And on Thursday, December 14th, there'll also be a meeting from 5 to 7 p.m. That'll be in person, located at the Westin Lake Mary, Orlando at 2974 International Parkway. And just a few details up front on those projects. These are capacity improvement projects at the County Road 46A and Reinhardt Road intersection in Seminole County, and safety improvements at Interstate I-4 and US 1792 interchange in Seminole County. And as mentioned, you can already find the video. It'll give you details if you want to get a heads up prior to that meeting. In tab A, you'll find your monthly construction report. And what we'd like to do is point out projects, FDOT projects that got underway since we last met. So in Orange County, FDOT recently commenced the following projects. That's a signal restoration project at OBT and Colonial. There's also a milling and resurfacing project at Orange Avenue and Princeton Street. And finally, a safety and resurfacing project on Washington Street between OBT and I-4. And then to wrap that up, in Osceola County, we also commenced a safety and operations project at the intersection of OBT and Osceola Parkway. You'll find multiple lane closures, nightly and intermittent, within your construction packet. So please feel free to take a look at that. And I'd like to close with introducing Amy Beckman. She joined our liaison team. She's going to be working primarily as the primary liaison with the MPO in the near future. And so we'll be seeing her face more around here. And pending questions, that concludes what I have for this morning's report.
Are there any questions? All right, thank you very much. Next, we have Ms. Whitten from Lynx. Welcome.
Good morning. Sticking with FDOT and Mobility Week, Lynx is excited to be participating in the 8th Annual Mobility Week this week. We kicked off festivities on Monday with the groundbreaking of our new Pine Hills Transfer Center. So we're very excited about that. It's been a lot of years of public outreach and planning to get to this point. So that's a major capital project for Lynx that we're excited to get started. Yesterday, we hosted a small group of transportation disadvantaged local coordinating board members on our Swan shuttle. That's the autonomous vehicle that's operating the limo route downtown. And then today we have several activities for Mobility Week. It's Tri-Transit Day. So it's free rides on Lynx and Sunrail for users and non-users of the system to get out and try transit. And then later this afternoon from 11 to 1, we'll be hosting our annual safety, what do we call it? Safety fair in the terminal downtown. So we're very excited for these activities. And pending any questions, that's my update.
Any questions? Thank you. Oh,
I do. I had this, could you share with us, the numbers on how many rides are you getting today? What's the update on that?
We reached our highest yet since COVID. This month it was 57,000. So that's, I think it's 7% up from this time last year. So it's still increasing, but slowly, but we're excited that we got 57,000.
I was just wondering because I just read a couple articles, different articles about, you know, how expensive it is to purchase a car, you know, go out and get credit on a car and with inflation. And so a lot of people are giving up their cars and doing mass transit. So I was wondering if you had seen that spike, and it looks like you have.
We are seeing a small increases. So hopefully that will continue to go back up to pre-COVID. Maybe they'll get on Tri-Transit today and
There you
try it
go.
out.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, Mr. Fine, who is with Florida Turnpike, welcome.
Good morning, committee members. No updates today. The main thing is that I'll be presenting the tentative work program for Florida's Turnpike Enterprise Day. We've kicked off our tentative work program season, and that's for Central, West Florida, North Florida, and South Florida. I have a South Florida counterpart, and he is currently doing presentations like I am today. But with that being said, that is the end of my report.
That was quick. Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I just report that we have online Dimitris Presley, who is representing Mer Gardner.
Okay, oh, thank you very much. We are now going to the action items. We have two action items. First is approval of the September 7th, 2023 meeting minutes, which is tab 1 in the agenda. Do we have a motion or do we have any changes or corrections?
I move we adopt minutes.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Sladek, second by Mayor Henson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, please show that adopted. Let's see. Second is our functional classification of public roadways, tab 2. It's a recommendation to approve updates to FDOT's functional classifications. We have Mr. Jim Wood present to make that presentation. Welcome, sir.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I am Jim Wood with Kimley Horn, and we are consultant support to DOT District 5 for the updates of the functional classification as well as the urban boundary processes. We first presented on these items back in August and September of 22, kind of looking ahead to what was going to be happening. And so since that time, we've been going through both the urban boundary and functional classification process. Urban boundaries are still in progress. You'll be hearing more about that over the next few months. But functional classifications, this is the culminating step today after a lot of coordination with the agencies. And so we're here for this approval. Just reminding that this is a federal process to place roadways into a classification hierarchy based upon the character, the service they provide. People often ask, what are the implications of this? It's used in terms of data management and understanding what the system is like overall in terms of the types of roadways. But one of the factors is determining federal funding eligibility. So anything that is classified as a minor collector in an urban area and above, arterials, internet, state expressway, et cetera, those are all eligible, for example, for FEMA funding after a storm event. But anything that's a minor collector in a rural area or a local road, either urban or rural, it is not. So that is a consideration, obviously, when people are evaluating these classifications, but the real emphasis is to be placed on what is the service that the corridor provides. Functional classification does not define or drive the approach to roadway design, and nor does it limit potential changes. So, for example, if you have a principal arterial, which is one of the higher classifications, and you wanted to do a lane repurposing to change it from 6 to 4 lanes, that does not prohibit that from being done. Having said that, if the function of that roadway changes significantly over time, it may be worth considering that classification would change, but it does not drive that. So as I mentioned, it was last year in August and September that we were making presentations to the respective committees ahead of this process. And then you'll see the technical committee. We had several meetings in the spring where we presented and gave status updates. This was during the process of review and coordination. And then we had initial agency meetings with several of the agencies that you see here, the 3 counties, and then City of Orlando on the front end of that process. As part of the review, we used this dashboard and application to help the agencies compare the current and proposed functional classification and then to provide their comments. So this was led by Jason Learned with FDOT. And then during the comment period, we had several agencies provide input, and these are just those that we had specific meetings with to coordinate and kind of come to an agreement on what the classifications should be. So there's been quite a bit of coordination going on leading up to this point. So the tab 2 12-page map set that you have is the collection of what these 3 county sets are. So you see Orange County has more map sheets simply because there's more detail, and I just wanted that to be a little more readable. But when these are approved, they will be approved as 3 separate maps and signed as such. So today we're seeking approval of these maps. Just 2 comments. One, we want to really thank MetroPlan staff as well as the agencies that have helped provide the input along the way for this. And then secondly, just saying that once this is approved, if it's approved by the board on November 8th, then it will be kind of in a holding pattern until next spring when the urban boundaries are done, and then both will be signed by the MetroPlan board chair at that time, and then will ultimately be signed by the secretary for DOT and sent to Federal Highway for review. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Great. Are there any questions? All right. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mayor Foraker in a second. Okay, so we have first and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, please show that adopted. All right, thank you very much. Let's see. We have presentations and some status updates. We have 3 informational presentations. Please hold questions until the presentation ends, if possible. Our first will be regarding Vision Zero Action Plan and SS4A grant. Welcome.
Good morning again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So giving you an update on where we are with our Vision Zero action plan. I'll be covering kind of the data side of things up front, and then Adriana Rodriguez will follow up with where we're going with the actual plan development. So work to date, been doing a number of things at the regional scale, such as developing a graphic standards package, which helps all of your local plans have a kind of unified look and also saves you some work from the design standpoint of putting together your own plans. Another really key part of this is the high injury network. So these are the roads that we've identified with the highest crash problems, and not only corridors, but as you see, 30 top intersections throughout the region as well. This network has been distributed to all the counties and local governments as well, so that you then incorporate that into your own plans and modify as you see fit. The way we came up with these corridors was to look at all the crashes, but then to weight the fatal and incapacitating or serious injury crashes at a much higher level, since that's what we want to focus on in a Vision Zero approach. And then we also weight vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists, because they are so much more likely to suffer a fatal or serious injury crash, that even if we're not seeing them in a particular corridor, we still want to weight those vulnerable user crashes in that corridor at a higher rate. So through all of this data crunching, we've come up with this system. What we find is that about half of our crashes are happening of our serious crashes are happening on about 4% of our roads. And that's roughly what you're seeing reflected in that high injury network. So it whittles it down to a manageable network that we can work with. You can see here that the distribution by the posted speed of roads. I'll note for you that we use the initials KSI quite frequently. That means killed or serious injury. And because that's what we're focusing on. If you see on this chart that the bars in blue are the percentage of roads by centerline miles at that posted speed. So you see the 25 mile an hour or less. We have lots of those roads, right? Our neighborhood streets, but relatively few crashes. While when you look at the higher speed roads, they reflect a very small proportion of our roads, but the high proportion of our crashes. We also look at behavior. Speed and impairment are significant crash problems. And here we can see that by age groups, our 20 and 30-year-old groups are the ones that are most overrepresented when it comes to speeding related and impairment related crashes. We don't just look at the crash data. There are other sources that can help us out with safety. For instance, crashes involving pedestrians or cyclists that don't involve a motor vehicle do not show up in crash reports, but we do get to see them in the Florida Injury Surveillance System. There are also some Sunrail crashes involving non-motorists. Similarly, do not have reports, and we've got that information from Sunrail. An interesting little tidbit on the bicycle side, that 60% of our bicyclist hospital admissions, right, serious enough to be admitted to the hospital, and then 20% of deaths did not involve a motor vehicle. So that speaks to hazards that cyclists can run into, but also some training to help cyclists avoid crashing due to things like mechanical problems or bike handling skills. But overall, we have key takeaways of where we're seeing the risk and severity and what factors are related, and far and away speed. And then correlated to that is often number of lanes and the traffic volumes. And where we tend to see them most is on the suburban commercial arterials, where we've got not only the high speed and volume, but a lot of turning movements as well. Roads through disadvantaged communities, lower income communities are overrepresented by 40 to 60%. And then not surprisingly, crashes involving unlawful speed, distraction, aggressive driving, and impairment. We are close to finishing up or making it fully active, our hub site. This is it's Vision Zero CFL.gov, where you'll be able to get all the resources for this program, look at the high injury network, look at all of the crashes for the past 5 years, and be able to dive into that and get detailed information for your area, and be able to just explore the data on your own to get a really clear idea of what's happening. We'll be having, we have an access restricted component of it, where the documents that are in progress are kept, and then once they're completed, they move to our public site, the regular MetroPlan site. Other, various helpful resources on safety. And this is also where we do our public engagement of not only informing the public, but also getting feedback from them. This is what the dashboard will look like. We hope to have this up and running this week. So it'll have a map that you can filter down, again, by jurisdiction, by crash type, and it gives you all the metrics based on what you've selected. And I'm going to hand over to Adriana, who's going to talk about key tasks moving forward with the plan.
Good morning, committee members. I'm going to provide an overview of the key tasks and upcoming activities related to the Vision Zero Action Plan. First, this is the overall project schedule. Right now, we're working in identifying engineering and non-engineering countermeasures that will provide guidance to the local plans as well. Provide information on where those countermeasures will be applicable and the benefits that are expected. Then we are moving into the policy review, reviewing existing policies, plans, as well as best practices to provide recommendations. For next year, 2024, we're going to be moving into identifying and prioritizing projects and strategies, as well as then for the spring timeframe, we are going to have the action plan document completed, as well as all the local plans. Speaking of local action plans, currently all these action plans are underway for the 3 counties and the municipalities listed in this slide. We have deployed all our consultant teams to work with local agencies in the development of the safety action plans that are tailored to their specific needs. This approach actually allows us to complete a comprehensive evaluation and identification of priority projects and strategies that could have been overlooked if we only focus at the regional level. These plans, as I mentioned before, will be completed in May-June 2024 timeframe, consistent with the completion of the regional plan. Related to next steps, we have our next task force meeting scheduled for November 28th. This will provide an update on the regional plan efforts. As mentioned, other local plans are underway. Related to engagement, our hub site is close to be fully functional. This will provide other relevant information related to the vision plan efforts. And some tasks that are in progress include the detailed crash analysis and the policy benchmarking guidance. That concludes our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Mayor McKim?
Yeah, it's interesting that you were talking about this. I'm earlier this year had the unfortunate experience of witnessing a fatal pedestrian accident that happened right before me. And as I think back on it, we're talking about these. It checked every single box that the gentleman was talking about. It was at night. Speed limit was 45 miles an hour. It was between intersections. Street lights were out. It was horrific. I mean, to check someone's pulse and things, it's tough. I guess what I'm suggesting is that maybe there's some tie-in, because as the months and months that are starting to roll by, the streetlights are still out, and at that exact same spot. And so maybe we can work on coordinating when we see the numbers and the contributing factors. Are we doing anything to go back and correct those contributing factors? So when there's a fatality, when the trooper lights are out, can we somehow coordinate those things so that, because this happened right in front of Full Sail, it was right in one of the red marked areas on the map that seems to be a high intensity area. Maybe we need to start coordinating a little bit better. It's just a suggestion, but.
So, each of the 3 counties has a community traffic safety team where traffic engineers and law enforcement and other safety professionals get together. Seminole County for many years has been actually reviewing every fatal crash as part of their process. And they find things like that, what can we do that's a quick fix to address that? Might be more of a challenge for Orange because of the scale, the sheer number, because of the population. But that may be something for to discuss with them to use the same process.
It maybe, even as just a resident is, being able to reach out and say, hey, these lights are out. It's in a high traffic area. The intersections are really quite far away, half a mile up between in that one section. There's a very large school located right there. There's apartments across the street. So there's a lot of contributing things that all seem to be lining up there. And unfortunately, I got to witness that. But some way of communicating those would, I'll reach out.
If I may add, as part of the steering committees and working groups that are being established for the local action plans, we're involving law enforcement representatives. And also wanted to mention that we are looking at the internal operating procedures for the local agencies to try to identify opportunities for that type of coordination that will not only prevent those crashes to happen, but if there is an instance in which there is need to review the specific location, then identify what's the process to follow.
I want to be real clear. I'm not pointing fingers. I just want to make sure that we continue the collaborative work and partnership working together. I'm not pointing fingers. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Joe?
Yeah.
Just a comment. I think we are kind of trying to get ahead of the curve. In Castleberry, we've done a study on 436. I've shared it with Jonathan. But we just had another fatality there recently, within the last few weeks. So I look forward to some progress.
Yeah, I have a question that just running through my head when you were talking about, bicycles. How do y'all classify electric bike? Is that bicycle or is that motorized vehicle? And with that being said, second part of the question is, do you have any numbers on those of hospitalization and fatality?
Interesting that has come up at now all three of our committee presentations of e-bikes. So e-bikes are classified as bicycles as long as it's electric motor and doesn't propel you at more than, well, they've changed the classes now. It used to be 20 miles an hour. There's now a class 3 e-bike, which go up to 28 and has to have supplemental or concurrent pedal power as well. So same rights and duties as any other bicycle driver. We have seen an increase. Our crash reports do not specifically prompt law enforcement for that information. There's not like a handy drop down to identify that. So we typically glean that from the narrative, or perhaps where it indicates what the damage was to property. It might indicate that it was an e-bike. I can tell you that over the past decade, we've gone from having maybe one e-bike crash every other year to now having at least 15. And I'm pretty sure that's an undercount. A really important factor is because the additional speed, what we've found in some of our research is that faster cyclists generally, irrespective of whether they have supplemental motor or not, are at greater risk for certain types of crashes. And so training for cyclists who are going faster is really an important component.
I see these a lot, especially down towards the beachway, but I see them around my neighborhood and stuff, and they're doing 20 miles an hour on sidewalks.
Right.
So I don't know, is there a push for in the future to have that tracked where it should be put in when police are doing their paperwork to say it was an e-bike, so we can kind of follow that and know that. I mean, if they're a hazard, I think, you know, those numbers will be of importance to say, listen, these things aren't a safe vehicle really to have your kid who's 18 and under on, or, you know, should have a helmet, anything like that. So is there?
Yes, so the
future for
state is in the process of revising the crash report, and that is one of the things they're looking at is the whole gamut of new mobility, whether it's an e-bike or an electric scooter or what have you, that there'll be categories that that officers will be prompted to select from. And then when we do our detailed crash typing, we analyze, okay, where was that road that user? Were they in a travel lane? Were they in a bike lane, a sidewalk, side path, what have you? So we will have that data in the near future, trying to collect that. But right now it's not as accurate as we would like it to be.
Thank you.
Any others? Great, thank you very much. Next, we have we'll hear from Ms. Catherine Alexander from FDOT, who will give us some information about the tentative work program. Welcome.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Kathy Alexander Corbin with District 5. I'm the Program Management Administrator. Just to go back to the incident that you mentioned on State Road 436, there is a project that will begin probably in the next few months, if it hasn't started already, for safety improvements along 436, north of Old Cheney up to University Drive. You know, unfortunate to have to witness that, but that is something that we look at in all of our projects, is how can we improve safety for all users of the roadway? And it's unfortunate you don't have every single roadway, but at least we do have that one coming through for that area. And we'll continue to look for those opportunities in other areas as well. All right, so what I'm here to present today is the information about our tentative work program. And this is the upcoming 5-year needs, transportation needs for our district. We're representing fiscal years 25 through fiscal year 29. This is an annual process that we go through where we program projects along roadways, transportation, transit, it could be spaceports, airports, rail, and it includes design, concepts, design, operations and maintenance, construction, all of the phases that are associated with these projects. This is, and like I mentioned, this is an annual process. Each district develops their tentative work program. They are then combined to become the statewide tentative work program, and these are submitted ultimately to legislature and the governor for review and approval. These are some key dates that we have for our tentative work program this cycle. The public comments deadline is this Friday, so November 3rd, tomorrow. The final tentative work program will be submitted to the Executive Office of the Governor December 26th. The Florida Transportation Commission holds a work program public hearing, and that will occur January 8th. And then the Florida State Legislative Session begins January 9th and runs through March 15th, where they'll review the tentative work program, and ultimately it makes it through all of these reviews and ultimate approval and adoption on July 1st of 2024. Cost continues to be a significant influence factor for the department. This is just a glimpse of what we have seen in the last 3 years. We wanted to make sure that we shared some of this. I think last year when I came, I talked about 25% increases across the board from our projects. Clearly that continues. We're not seeing as much of the increases as we have seen in the past, but clearly the costs are still rising. This is mainly due to supply chain constraints and issues, as well as material and labor shortages, as well as what we all know, inflation over the last year. The department has paid $363.16 million for contract price adjustments, just to make sure that we can compensate the contractors for some of those variable and very volatile prices on material, and also to keep the projects going. We develop pricing models, cost per mile for different types of roadways. And what you see here at the bottom of the table are the two cost of materials, material cost indices for a 4-lane rural divided roadway. And as you can see, for the top one is a new construction. Our cost for a new construction project has increased since 21 to 23, about a 17% difference in material cost per mile just in the last year. The bottom is our resurfacing, typical for the same type of roadway, a 4-lane rural divided. And that has gone up about over 26.5% in the last year, but clearly significantly since 2021. So considering those cost increases, it's always a challenge when we get to building the tentative work program. We have to balance, we have to meet program areas and targets and balance against our allocations and revenues that are provided. And the allocations and revenues projections are still very low. They're very conservative in terms in how much they're growing. Pretty much flatline, very low. Revenues and transportation revenues are just slightly higher for those projections. Rental car surcharge didn't change very much, and actually dock stamps were actually lower because of the real estate situation right now and high interest rates. So they didn't help us out much against what we're seeing as continuous increases in our work program for our project materials. But they are helping some to absorb some of that. We also saw a significant change in the resurfacing program. We are required by Florida statute to maintain a certain quality of pavement for our state highways. And that required that the resurfacing program formula was adjusted, as well as the lane miles increased. For District 5 specifically, we gained more lane miles that we had to resurface over the next 5 years in order to be able to maintain that threshold. And our adjustments, the allocations, the funding that comes along with that was also adjusted. That cost us to go back and refocus on what is it exactly what the resurfacing allocations for, and is for the pavement. So we did have to strategically look at our resurfacing projects and what can we add that was in addition to maintaining the pavement integrity. So some of our projects will be maintenance pavement, and then they'll review for any kind of additional safety components or any other kind of scope elements while they're in design. But unfortunately, we do need to maintain the pavement integrity because that's the purpose of the Florida statute. And another consideration for this cycle is we really wanted to maintain conservative contingency levels. I'm pretty sure all of us have been hit with the inflation over the last few years actually. And for the department, we went critically low on our contingency levels throughout the year, particularly because we were experiencing really high bids as a result to our projects going out. And so we were covering those differences. With the price variability, sometimes you didn't know which project was going to be higher versus another. So this year, as we were building our tentative, we really wanted to do responsible contingency levels that we could carry for the next couple of years, understanding the prices are not going down, they're continuing to increase. There were a few deletions in the work program, and this means that funding was removed from the upcoming 5. However, these are not due to any kind of balancing or any funding shortfall. The 2 that you see on the left, the top one is for Orange County. That is elements of work that was absorbed within another project that is programmed within the 5 years. So that work is still going to be taken care of in the upcoming 5. Same thing for Osceola County. These were preventive maintenance culvert rehab projects that we had programmed. They're actually being absorbed in other projects also that are going to be constructed in the near future. On the right-hand side for Seminole County, Seminole Orlando Sanford Airport let us know of some of the capital grants that they had funding initially. They wanted to go ahead and remove it. They're going to include that in some future capital effort. So they went ahead and requested that we delete those from the upcoming tentative. The ones that you see here are related to the tentative work program. Like I mentioned, it's a challenge. We have to build and balance our work program against, and that includes program areas and targets against the allocations that were provided, which is the support for the work program. And the projects on this slide and a few on the other did have to balance from one year to another because that's where the funding was available. However, we limited the deferrals to just within 1 year. Just as a reminder, we managed the work program from July 1st to June 30th, 1 year to the other. So it could be a matter of just a couple months if we have to defer for a year. On the left-hand side, you see 239422-1, State Road 434. That's an add lanes and reconstruct project where the construction was deferred from 27 to 28. And there's a drainage improvement project along State Road 50 in McGuire that was deferred from 26 to 27. On the right-hand side, we have 449214-1 in Orange County. That is an intersection improvement project where the construction was deferred from 25 to 26. And then we have Osceola County on the bottom right, 418403-7. That is an intersection improvement project where the right-of-way phase and construction phase on that was deferred a year for each of those. One last work program balancing project. It's a design phase in Osceola County for 437200-1. This is along 1792 Ivy Miss Lane to Avenue A. The design for this was deferred from fiscal year 26 to 27. And the remainder that you see on here, these are all at the request of the local agency. At the very bottom is Osceola County. There's an urban corridor improvement project that was deferred, the design from 25 to 26 and the right of way from 27 to 28. That is a local agency programs project with City of Kissimmee. And then on the right, we have local agency projects with Winter Springs, where they requested these two projects in Seminole be deferred as well. These did defer a little bit further out than the year, but they are still in the tentative work program. So the top one went from 26 to 28, and then the bond, likewise, same thing for the bottom. So both of them were deferred 2 years at the request of the city. Here is a breakdown of the funding for the 3 counties in the region, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole. As you can see, it's over $3 billion across the counties, and the breakdown for each of those years for each of the counties is available. And if we look at these further in terms of work mixes and scope elements, you can see safety projects, it's still $220 million is what we have planned over the next 5 years. That's going to be your urban corridors, your type of interchanges and intersection improvements, safety related items. Capacity is adding more vehicles, adding lanes. That's over $1.5 billion for the region. Preservation is your resurfacing, like I mentioned, the resurfacing program, as well as our bridge repairs, rehabilitation, and replacement. That's also required by statute, over $272 million there. Multimodal is going to be your transit. Some of the ones on there is related to the airport, as well as aviation and rail. And what we have is over $692 million program in the upcoming 5 years. Operations, over $83 million in the upcoming tentative work program. Bike ped, strictly what it is, sidewalks, trails, accommodating those within our roadways, over $112 million in the upcoming 5. And then miscellaneous, kind of a catch-all, rest areas. It could also be, we have electronic vehicle charging stations that are going in, some miscellaneous improvements, roadside improvements, and those total close to $197.5 million in the upcoming 5 years. I'll highlight some projects. There's plenty in the work program, but just some key ones that are just being introduced into the upcoming 5 years. Resurfacing is a big component. Like I mentioned, we gain miles over at the district, so we're going to be doing a lot of resurfacing projects in the upcoming 5 years. You see here for Seminole County, there's 2 projects there. One is along State Road 436, east of Harriet Drive and west of Wymore Road. We have design in the first year, which is fiscal year 25, and the construction of that project is 2 years later in fiscal year 27. And then there's another resurfacing job around State Road 434 from McCulloch Road, Orange County Lane to north of Clont Street, following the same schedule with design in 25 and construction in 27. In Orange County, 2 projects there as well. State Road 434 from John Young Parkway to Edgewater Drive. The cost there $9 million. And then also one State Road 15, US 1792 from Lee Road to Seminole County line. A little bit over 7.5 for both those phases following same schedule. And continuing with Orange County resurfacing, another project, a large one, close to $18 million, State Road 500, US 441, 1792 from Osceola County line to north of Caroni Drive. And then moving over to Osceola County, several large resurfacing jobs there as well. One along US 192 from Bamboo Lane to Main Street. That is actually a construction. So construction in that first year of the tentative, a large one, $33 million. And then we have another one that's just initiating, which the design in the first year and construction in the 3rd year, along State Road 600, 500 from north of Old Dixie Highway to south of Country Boulevard. And then the last one here shown for Osceola is also a construction project in the first year of the tentative, close to $28 million for that one. Bike trails to cover for you today, just to highlight with Shingle Creek Trail extensions. This we have 442-334-3 and 442-870-2. These are construction phases that we have programmed. One is in 25, the first year, and 26 is the second. And both of those a little bit over $9 million. There are several phases though that we're not showing, but just to let you know in terms of figure, there's over $21 million towards construction of bike trails in the upcoming 5 years and over $3 million for bike trail studies and designs that are supported by MetroPlan as well to continue to expand on those for construction in the future. A couple of urban corridor improvement safety projects. These are within Orange County, the top one being with City of Orlando and the one on the right with Orange County. These have the preliminary or the design on the left-hand side funded in 29, close to $3 million. And on the right-hand side, you have design in 25, the first year, 27 is the third. That is Rock Springs Road's North Public Entrance to Lester Road, $5.8 million for that. A rather large bike path trail. This is actually a project for the Seminole Wekiva Trail pedestrian tunnels. They're constructing tunnels within the area around this area. The construction funded for this is in fiscal year 26. This received a portion of federal earmark and the remaining funds are actually being provided by the local agency. We also have truck parking funding represented within the 5-year, the truck and freight site analysis, which is the PD&E study, planning and development study is ongoing and in the final stages. For this phase, completing the engineering and the environmental documentation is expected to be in the spring of next year. We received funding from the National Highway Freight Program that allowed us to go ahead and further the fund phases of 5 sites in the upcoming 5 years. And so Seminole site has the design phase up to 30% plans and the right-of-way acquisition is being done under our I-4 BTU project. It's partially funded in 24 current year and 25, which is the first year of the tentative. And this is just an informational slide. We've heard a lot about, we know that the moving forward of projects are coming. These are projects that are critical for the region for economic stimulus and to relieve some of the congestion along the significant roadways. The one for District 5 is I-4 from Champions Gate to State Road 536. That's going to add capacity as well as some express lanes. The intent for that project is design build contract spring of 2024 with construction phases to begin in 2025. The intent of all the moving forward of forward projects across the state is to deliver those within the next 10 years. But as you can see, there's a couple other projects that are really with the focus for the Central Florida region. And those would be the Ponciana Parkway extension, as well as the I-4 US 27 to Champions Gate. Overall, we have 52 priority projects funded within the tentative 5-year work program for over $816 million. I do want to take the opportunity to share that there are other opportunities to receive fundings through grant mechanisms. We've had a couple of them in the past that actually MPO received an award from the Safe Streets and Roads for All. There's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. There's also Protect, which is a resiliency type grant. There's also mega project and infrastructure type grants as well. FDOT supports those. So if you need to reach out, maybe want to explore the opportunities for that, the person you want to contact is Alice Giuliani, and that's her contact information, and FDOT could provide a letter of consistency for those. And that concludes my presentation. I will highlight here that we have the website up, which is our work program public hearing website, where you can actually pull the reports for the counties as well as view the maps. If there was a particular region you wanted to see about these projects, and our public commenting opportunity is on the website as well. And again, that due date is tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I have one question for you. I was wondering, what has the legislature or is DOT requested as far as making sure electric vehicles pay their fair share? You know, we pay a gas tax for regular motors, but EVs pay nothing. Is there anything proposed, debate, or moving?
There have been discussions on that, but I'll be honest with you, I have not partaken in those, but we can find out and get an update and send it back. I know that has been over the last few years as the participation as more vehicles are getting on the roadway that are electrical. And how do you make up for that with the revenue and the taxes?
I know they discussed, I don't know, maybe a user fee on the tag renewal or something, but okay. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir.
On your resurfacing, what's the average lifespan and how often do you have to resurface?
We design for 20 years payment life, but what we normally do is get out there within the 15-year and the 18-year timeframe. So that's why it's a good opportunity when we go out there with our resurfacing jobs every 15 to 18 years to incorporate any kind of like roadway improvements, any kind of user improvements there, any roadside features that need to be upgraded because of design standards and guidelines. So that's the typical, you typically get more than that. You design for more than what you expect. So you design for a 20-year payment life. However, we go out there within 15 to 18 years to repave.
You mentioned the tunnels on 436 and 434. Can you explain a little bit, elaborate more on that? And how's that versus a pedestrian overpass as price or?
That is a project that I'll be honest with you, I know they're building tunnels to be able to accommodate the movements. They're not located specifically at this intersection. We just pull this as the description. But I'm sorry, I could get you more information to that and provide it separately.
Yeah, I'd like to get some for the next meeting or whenever you guys can, just to see. I know that's not necessarily 436 and 434, but what the study and what the vision is as far as price wise.
Absolutely,
The
absolutely.
tunnel versus the overpass for pedestrians and bikes.
Absolutely. This is a project from the city of Altamont Springs, and we have been coordinating with some of this information so we can get that for you.
I also have questions if I may. And I concur, I'd like to know the information also, because I know that bike path is pretty much on the northern part of 436. So it would go through that intersection, but you know, I'm also kind of like, well, if I'm on the other side of the street, you know, how does that connect or does it not connect, and what their plans are and what, you know, cost is compared to, you know, going over. I also had another question on the resurfacing of 1792 and to Seminole. That I'm taking it, that's gonna be at nighttime, but I know we had talked about the railroad bridge going over at the same time. Is that in the same year? Is that gonna coordinate so we're just doing all the work?
I will
the
have
same
to
time?
confirm, and yeah, I would have to let you know specifically what is included in that. I don't know what the components, I know this is strictly resurfacing and it is going to be taking care of the pavement. And because of all the changes with our resurfacing program, some of those additional items are going to be tabled for more discussion once they get in design and additional funding.
Okay.
So I'll find out. You said which was it was the bridge?
The railroad bridge,
Okay,
right at the line of Winter Park and Maitland,
okay,
right there. You know, if you're just gonna do it all, go ahead and knock it all out. So that's kind
Okay.
of what my thought was.
I'll get with the project manager and find out.
Yeah, yeah. In the section of Lee Road, I'm sorry, of Edgewater and Forest City Road, you know, that was being pushed back. Was that pretty much due to financing, county finances, or that was being pushed back to 27, I think?
Yeah, it wasn't, there's different flavors of funding that we have represented in the work program. And depending on cost increases and changes to projects, sometimes not all the funding is available in 1 year. So what happens is you may be able to fit so many projects in 1 year, and then you have flexibility or you have a surplus in the following year. When we talk about the work program balancing, it strictly is that it wasn't any external. It was just a matter of putting the project where we had the funding available, but always taking into account that we're trying to minimize the impacts on that project. So if we could reduce that deferral period, that is going to be the best. We don't try. In the past, we have had to defer more than a year. This year, we were able to keep it within a year of that original programming. So it was not an external, it was just a matter of the funding that was available.
Great, great. Thank you. And afterwards, I'd just like to have a minute with you about something we're not talking about today.
Okay.
Thank you.
I apologize. I do have to leave for another meeting, but if you want to, I can reach out to you and we can discuss
Yeah,
separately.
would you mind?
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Great. Any other questions? All right, thank you. I think you got a few hit. Next, we have the tentative work program summary from Turnpike Enterprise, Mr. Fine.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Siao Fine, and I'm with the Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. Today I'll be discussing the tentative work program from the Florida's Turnpike Enterprise. So starting off, in the Metro Plan Orlando area, the Turnpike is proposing to fund $664 million in major projects. As part of the Florida Department of Transportation, Florida's Turnpike Enterprise considers the 5 pillars of the DOT compass when building our work program. The pillars are safety, resiliency, support for a robust supply chain, technology, and workforce development. This is all built around our communities. As one FDOT team, we follow the department's mission and vision as we help meet the state's transportation needs, ensure value to our customers, protect investors, and manage the Turnpike system in a business-like manner. We do all this by providing customer-oriented, environmentally sound, and user-financed facilities. Florida's Turnpike system consists of limited access facilities and provides Florida's residents and visitors with a safe, efficient, and affordable means of travel. Turnpike facilities are in 6 FDOT districts and 20 counties in Florida. In Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties, we have 127 miles of Turnpike managed toll facilities. To help meet the state's transportation needs, the Turnpike primarily receives funding through user tolls and concessions at our service plazas. According to our bond covenants, the Turnpike must pay for operation and maintenance costs first. So this includes the cost to collect and process toll payments. Then we must pay off debt on bonds issued to construct major projects. It should be noted that due to our high credit rating, the Turnpike has historically benefited from some of the lowest borrowing costs in the toll industry. So after that, we invest revenue into renewal and replacement projects. So these are our resurfacings and our recurring improvements on roadways. Finally, the Turnpike uses the remaining funding to pay for capital improvements. So these capital improvement projects are interchange and our widening projects. The Turnpike has various ways of determining how projects get funded, depending on the project type. All our projects must demonstrate a transportation need and then are prioritized accordingly. Each year, we look at observed traffic data and future projections across the entire system. So that goes all the way from North Florida to South Florida. We also consider environmental and economic feasibility. But of course, what's most important to the Turnpike is stakeholder input. We receive this in various ways, including MPO meetings, throughout the entirety of the project development process. So before I actually start my presentation, I would like to point you to this document right here, this navy blue document. My presentation is actually based on this document. This is the Turnpike's tentative work program summary for District 5. So these are all the Turnpike's projects in the District 5 area that we have going on. So I'd like to describe a little bit about like how this document actually works. So there's 3 parts to the actual document. So starting on page 1, that table that you see there is actually current construction projects. So those are construction projects that were either started last fiscal year or will start this fiscal year. These are things that are going on the roadway currently, and things that you can see happening on the roadway itself. Starting on page 3, going all the way to page 15, these are the projects in the tentative work program that have construction funding within the 5 years. So these make up the body of the actual document itself. These are the more important projects to us because they do have construction funding within the 5 years, meaning that they will be completed within those 5 years, or will start construction within 5 years. And then on page 17, there is the final table. And this table houses projects that have PD&E, design, or right-of-way funding, but do not have construction funding associated with these projects yet. So these are the projects that will join the main body of the document once they have construction funding associated with the projects. Okay. With that being said, I'd like to go over projects again within the body of this document. So starting in Osceola County, we have the widening of the Turnpike Main Line from Parton Settlement to Osceola Parkway with interchange improvements at Osceola Parkway. And this project has construction funding in fiscal year 2026. So you'll see in the funding column of the actual presentation, there is a number of millions of dollars. So that's actually the price of both those phases that are included. So any phases that are included for a project, that is the total cost of the project, of those phases. So the second project is the widening of the Turnpike Main Line from US 192 to Parton Settlement Road with interchange improvements at US 192. And that has construction funding in fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2027. The final project on this slide is the widening of the Turnpike Main Line from milepost 239 to milepost 242 with the construction of the new full interchange at Nolte Road. This project has design build funding in fiscal year 2026. Staying in Osceola County, we have the resurfacing of the Southern Connector extension going from milepost 0 to milepost 4, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. Next, we have the Canoe Creek Service Plaza parking improvements, and this has construction funding in fiscal year 2026. Now going into Orange County, we have the construction of the new interchange on the Turnpike Main Line at Sand Lake Road, which has construction in fiscal year 2027. Next, we have the interchange improvements on the Turnpike Main Line at State Road 528 and US 1792, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2027 through fiscal year 2028. And finally, on this slide, we have the construction of the new interchange at the Turnpike Main Line at the Taft Vineland Road. And this is a reliever interchange. This project has construction funding in fiscal year 2027. Staying in Orange County, we have the Hempel Avenue Bridge replacement over State Road 408. And this has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. We have the Tismo interchange improvements on the Turnpike Main Line at State Road 50 in Ocoee, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. We have the Tismo interchange improvements at State Road 528 and at John Young Parkway, and this has construction funding in fiscal year 2026. And then we have Tismo interchange improvements on the Western Beltway at US 192, which has construction funding in fiscal year 2025. And finally, on this slide, we have the resurfacing of the Southern Connector from milepost 4 to milepost 6 with construction in fiscal year 2025. In Seminole County, our singular project is the resurfacing of the Seminole Expressway from milepost 50 to milepost 55 with construction funding in fiscal year 2025. So this slide here is actually projects that have had funds either added, advanced, deferred, or deleted. So for the widening of the Turnpike Main Line from milepost 238 to milepost 239, design has been advanced to fiscal year 2027. Right-of-way has been added to fiscal year 2029. And then the next project, the Turnpike Main Line widening from State Road 408 to State Road 429, design and right-of-way have actually been deleted for that project. The next project, the interchange improvements on the Turnpike Main Line at State Road 50 in Winter Garden / Claremont. This has had a right of way added in fiscal year 2029. The next project, the widening of the Western Beltway from US 192 to Western Way, has had design deferred to fiscal year 2025 and right of way actually deleted. On the State Road 429 from Western Way to Sidell Road widening, design has been deferred to fiscal year 2025. And on the widening of the Seminole Expressway from State Road 434 to County Road 427, Lake Mary Boulevard, right of way has been deferred to fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2027. Okay. So for more information on all projects in the Turnpike's tentative work program, you can visit the FDOT work program public hearing website and download the District 5 public hearing report when it becomes available. Turnpike's tentative work program projects can be found in this document or on the website of the FloridaTurnpike.com. Before I go, I'd like to leave you with a safety minute. So the Florida Turnpike Enterprise would like to encourage drivers who have had a vehicle that's become inoperable on the road, on our roadways, to stay safely in your vehicle if possible and wait for help instead of getting out of your vehicle on our high-speed roadways. Turnpike's traffic management staff are watching roadside cameras 24 hours a day, and they will deploy a road ranger or a FHP officer to assist you quickly. You also have the option to dial *347 or *FHP, and that's another way you can request for a road ranger or an officer to assist you. But with that being said, I'd like to thank you guys once again for the opportunity, and I will take any questions if there are any.
Thank you. It's a good safety point. Any questions?
Good safety point.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we have, there's some general information in your agenda, folks, to take a look at. We have next Metro Plan Orlando board meeting is here next week on Thursday, November 8th at 9 a.m. Our next MAC meeting will be December 7th. Now it's the point for member comments. I think Mayor Blackwell, you have something?
Yes, the Tri-County League of Cities will be meeting November the 16th at noon, as usual, at the Sanford Civic Center. And we will have a presentation on Form 6 that I'm sure all of you are excited about learning more about. And so we invite you to come be a part of that meeting. It'll be a very important meeting. And we hope a very informative meeting. Again, that's November the 16th. Thank you.
Yeah, you're going to want to know what you have to fill out, folks. It's a lot. Any other general announcements? No? All right. We will now go to public comments. If any members of the public wish to comment, please use the raise hand function and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll unmute your mic after you are recognized. Please state your name, address for the record, and limit your comments to 2 minutes or less. Do we have any joining virtually who would like to make a comment?
We have no comments virtually, Mr. Chairman.
All right. How about any public comment cards or those in attendance?
We have Mr. David Bottomley who'd like to be recognized.
Please come forward. Yeah. Welcome. Please leave your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is David Bottomley, 305 Woodbury Pine Circle, Orlando. I've lived in Orlando for 50 years. I've been a wheelchair driver for 30. What I want to bring to your attention is that when the watch I'm wearing is a tracking type watch, that and with a small compact camera, I get out to the various parks lately. If there's a boardwalk or a wetland, that's got my attention right away because I can find a loose board in a heartbeat. It makes all kinds of noise. Well, right down the road from here, there's Alcoy Park and it's in Patty Sheehan's district. And sure enough, there's a bus stop out there with a concrete bench. Well, this has been an old issue for at least 20 years. If there's a bus stop with furniture on it, that must be ADA compliant. What brought this to my attention, I did a search on Florida statutes and it's, whoops, wrong screen. 337.408. And it's up to the local municipalities to make the bus stops ADA compliant. In short, at the curb, it's got to be a 5-foot landing concrete pad. And then a pedestrian access road, I think it's 4 feet to a connecting sidewalk. There's been a lot of concrete benches installed, a lot of benches installed without this. So no wonder why we have a bus system, I'll talk to you later, that is kind of in bad shape. Even coming here on South Street, there's right there at the Roslyn exit, there's a shelter there, but right next to it is a concrete bench. My suggestion is, if you've got bus stop facilities with furniture in them, bring it to Link's attention saying, do we really need this? What's the ridership numbers on it? And we'll take it from there. Because this has been going on for at least 20 years. My second point is, we mentioned the, I'm gonna keep on going. Mentioned the Altamont Springs cranes rides. Well, I bumped into Jim Turney of Altamont Springs. He's a councilman there. He said, Dave, would you check that out for us, please? I said, okay. So I finally got out there on a nice, cool morning with the watch and took the ride. I want to know how long it was and, you know, what kind of length it was. And I've got all this stuff in an email, getting ready to blast it here off in a minute. And it's still in its developmental stages because there's stuff that happened that's between me and Beep that I can't really discuss. I told them, I said, I'm not going to discuss it because there's the technical things that they're working on. The obvious thing is, if you look at the website or in case of Altamont Springs or the Beep, the map really needs improvement. And to find the stops on the map, it's almost impossible. So it's still in development because there's one downtown here. So I'm thinking it's still in version 1. Give them the benefit of that 2 or 3. We need to get to version 3. So they are aware of it. But I think it's a good idea. Yes, it is ADA compliant. Yes, it is ADA compliant. Because I have some reservations about it. I could write on it. Actually, Bob Mila from Orlando Health, I saw him on the news here with the one downtown. And that's all I got. Please look at your bus stops. If you think you need them, get with links on it because they've got the ridership numbers. They are responsible, in my opinion, for the maintenance of the bus stop. In other words, keeping it clean, keeping it repaired, keeping the trash out. But as for the ADA compliance, that's at build time, that's install time or maintenance. And a lot of this stuff is going through the cracks. That's all I got.
Maybe, thank you very much. Maybe the municipalities need to be reminded of their responsibility, and we appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
This has been like going on for at least almost 25 years now. And there's a 2023 statute. They had modified it somehow. So kudos to FDOT and the new ADA coordinator, replaced Dean Perkins. I have not met him yet. So
thank you very much. Any other comments, cards? Or
There's no more comments.
are there any written or phone comments that were submitted before the meeting?
No, there were not.
All right. With that, I believe we are adjourned. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Please show our recording ending and